Welcome, listeners, to our Youth for Integrity podcast, episode 3. Today, we're going to be having a conversation around public accountability. And as usual, we host this conversation with members of the youth. Today, I'm joined by Learnmore Munhangu. Learnmore, how are you doing?
Okay, how are you doing?
Very good. Could you please introduce yourself?
All right, so I'm a youth, from Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with young people. I lead a youth organization called Youth Decide Zimbabwe.
Interesting, Learnmore. So, as we were having this conversation before about integrity, and we've met in other spaces before, and I think we've both established and are on the same page that Zimbabwe is a challenge, Africa is a challenge in terms of corruption.
Yeah.
For instance, Zimbabwe loses over $1 billion to corruption every year. Africa loses an average of about 60 billion every year to corruption. The instinct is to fight corruption, but we believe that if you fight corruption, there will be a reaction. So instead of us fighting corruption, let's build a culture of integrity, especially targeting the youth under this project, the #SEER project. So this is why we are having this conversation. And I want to jump straight into it, learn more. What is your understanding of public accountability?
So when we talk about public accountability, we're talking about the people being able to hold their leaders accountable. So just like that, to make sure that those who are occupying the positions of power are delivering whatever that they are supposed to be delivering. They are also behaving in a manner that they prove that they are not serving themselves when they are in the office. So public accountability is us having a platform of asking questions to those who are in government and also proffering ideas and solutions to the problems that are affecting our societies. So it's two-way. It's not just the public asking questions. Sometimes the public can also have ideas that can move forward the community development agenda.
So that speaks to the challenge that we have and that we're trying to address. The fact that our social contract, our constitution, the concept of democracy states that there should be public accountability, there should be participation. But the youth are already excluded from these spaces. How do we get the youth to then participate? How do we get them interested? Nowadays people will say, I'm a 2K, I'm a 2000, and I'm not interested in governance issues. But the reality of it is, they have ideas. I mean, you work with the youth. How do you think we should get them to participate?
All right. So when we are talking about social accountability, I think we have 3 things in it. That is number 1, transparency.
Yes.
And then number 2, accountability. And then number 3 is participation. That's when we talk about social accountability. Some they call it a TAP model, TAP. So we need young people to first of all understand that the government is supposed to be transparent. And then we tell them about the tools that are there, the accountability processes that we need to do now, the tools that are in place to make sure that there is transparency so that these young people can participate. So these 3 are supposed to link.
Yes.
But what we need to do is to make sure that young people understand the vices and evils of corruption, what the corruption is going to do to
like
them, so that they have an understanding and enthusiasm to stop that corruption. So once the young people now have a deep understanding, they can then try by all means to come up with accountability tools to deal with corruption. But there is need, first of all, as I said, to change the perception of our youth. And some believe that corruption will never go. So they also want to participate in it.
Right.
So the first thing is to make sure that we wash the brain of our young people and make sure that they believe that this corruption can go. But as you said, I think in your introductory statement, you said that you cannot fight this corruption, but you can build integrity. So we now want these young people to be integrity champions, integrity icons in their communities. But we know that we are targeting the youth. So maybe those who are occupying the positions of power are not really as integral, or maybe the qualities of integrity are not with them. So that's why we need these young people to create platforms for them to brainstorm and converse ideas, and also to invite those who are occupying the positions of power to ask them questions, and to make them understand that us as young people, we are able to question you.
So I like that, because you speak about young people creating these platforms, yes? Because obviously now, due to the fact that we're in the digital era, we already have social media. We already have Twitter or X, or we already have Facebook, we have Instagram, and young people are already in these spaces. So now what you are suggesting is that we use those platforms instead of using them for those other issues. We try and focus on the governance issues. Also, because we are living in a context of shrinking civic space. No one is going to give us these spaces. So then we create the spaces that we already are, that we're already existing in, and then we use those spaces to speak on issues to do with accountability. Okay, so what does that look like? What methodologies do you see the young people using for them to be able to participate, and what strategies can we use to get over the challenge of exclusion?
So I think number one is grassroots movement. We need to have young people at grassroots who make sure that they create platforms at local level, lead platforms at local level, and invite other young people to join, so that we make sure that we have a movement at grassroots that is pushing for accountability. Because you cannot fight corruption from the head. It will bite you, as we said. So you need to follow it and make sure that it won't come back. So the thing that we need now is to at least have a grassroots movement at local level, which is able to conscientize the community about the issues of social accountability, so that our brothers and sisters who are not part of the movement now, they can join later. So it's a matter of increasing the numbers at grassroots. And then number two, as you said, my brother, you talked about we are in the digital era nowadays. You see many ministers, failing to answer questions that they asked on social media. But we have a few people who are doing that, who are questioning, who are researching and questioning government officials about whatever that they are doing. We need a movement, a digital movement.
A campaign.
Of course. Young people asking questions, young people organizing themselves online to make sure that if there is anything that is happening in our governance, we make sure that whoever who is going to open their phone and go online, they see our story. So that way we are giving pressure to those who are in the corridors of power, and we are also letting the world know that there is something that is happening, and we are also opening up the eyes of those who are not seeing whatever that is happening in the corridors of power.
Okay. We want to build a campaign. If you and I would know that Zimcode, for one, conducted a campaign called the How Far campaign, hashtag How Far, where we were asking accountability questions to our duty bearers. For instance, you could type in hashtag How Far Magetsi or How Far on Education, and our duty bearers are actually responding to these questions. So even now, if you feel like you have an important question that you want to ask your duty bearer, it doesn't have to be at the executive level. It doesn't have to be at mayoral level. It could be your councillor in your ward, and you have a specific question that you want to ask them. Going down to the grain, maybe it's a borehole that you want them to attend to, or it's a sewer issue that you want them to attend to. You can use that hashtag. And now we're using the hashtag Youth for Integrity campaign that you see behind us. That's another campaign that we are trying to push and that you can utilize to get your questions pushed forward and to have access to your duty bearers. That brings us to another aspect that I think the youth have a big part to play in, technology. How do you think we can utilize technology? We can use our mobile devices, we can use our computers, we can use Wi-Fi, maybe even we can use Starlink. Starlink was just approved. Maybe we can even use Starlink. How do we use those technological opportunities that we have as the youth to fight corruption, not to fight corruption, to build a culture of integrity, and to push the campaign and to demand for public accountability?
All right. So as I said in the first, that the one thing that we're supposed to focus on is to educating our fellow brothers and sisters and to make sure that we have a movement. So technology will allow us now You know, you can have a WhatsApp group. I don't know the maximum number of people who can join a WhatsApp group now. Maybe in a word, right? This is technology, right? And then you're conscientizing.
And it's very accessible technology, because people have this thinking of, when you say technology, we're talking about me going to build a very huge thing or a mobile application when you don't have the capacity. But you're speaking about using WhatsApp, which is readily available, and we're already using that platform. I like that.
So now you see, you have WhatsApp, right? So your people, people in the community, they join in a WhatsApp group. You explain to them about the movement that we're talking about. Hashtag Youth for Integrity. What does it mean? You know, what do we want to see in the community? And also let them understand issues about social accountability, as I said, other tools that we can use using WhatsApp group. You know, and the issue of technology, you know, it becomes very easy. You know, during the night you can send a message, but you cannot call people and meet with them, you know, during the night. But it allows you, it's very flexible. You are wherever you are, you're able to send a message. Someone is maybe at work, but they're able to read those messages even after work. So I think WhatsApp should be our first thing, right? You can also add those duty bearers in those WhatsApp group now. You see, so that they can read messages. You can tell even the young people, if you have any issue that is happening in our society, send a message here. We have duty bearers. The duty bearers will also attend to those messages, you know. So that's number one. And then number two, you have those other platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Maybe you now want to engage at a bigger scale. You now want to engage even the government officials, you know. So now we can push through those platforms, you see. But then there are other things which are beyond that, which we can also use, which are technological tools. We can create your own tool and tailor and make your tool to make sure that you hold your duty bearers accountable at a local level. You know, I was researching some other days. I think the young people of Nigeria, they've managed to do a lot to utilize technology. They have so many apps, civic apps, whatever, where they track the policy implementation. They track even the policies which are being enacted by the government, even the implementation of those policies. You know, that's accountability.
And they are changing the narrative, because Nigeria, the outlook that people have on Nigeria, especially around these issues of fraud, DTC, is very negative. But these youth are trying to change the narrative, which is building that culture of integrity. So corruption is a huge monster in countries like Nigeria, countries like Zimbabwe, but there are these efforts that people are trying to make. I will speak to two innovations that I recently learned of. I think last week, I met one of the guys who developed a civic app. I think it's called Civic Guru. I think we'll confirm and put the link in the video. But I think it's called Civic Guru, which is an AI application where you can just go there on the website, on the web platform, and they're also developing a mobile platform. And for instance, you can ask this application about the Constitution. And beyond just asking it about the Constitution, you can ask it to dumb it down. For instance, if you feel you don't have an appreciation of the whole Section 5 and all of that, you can simply ask it, what is the right to freedom? What is the right to security? And this mobile application or this AI application will be able to ask to give you that in vernacular language even. So it can tell you in Shona, it can tell you in Ndebele. So this speaks to the fact that the youth are willing and they have the capacity to build these applications and to participate and to demand public accountability. Wow.
Two, the platforms are not there for young people to participate. You know, that's why I said we need then to create those platforms, us as young people. And all civil society actors are supposed to engage in creating platforms for young people, you know, in different communities, so as to make sure that they participate in social accountability processes at local level, at maybe provincial level, district level, and at national level. We need such platforms of engagement. So number two is it's a matter of platforms. And then number three, young people sometimes they get to those platforms which are very cosmetic in nature. You invited to a workshop, and then you say something, but then that thing can never be implemented. I've seen young people, participating in public hearings, and they say a lot of sense during the public hearings to say that this law is supposed to be like this. But when you read the law, after its enactment, you can be shocked. So the ideas which are coming from young people are not being taken. So young people now are no longer interested to participate in all those issues. Public hearings is a platform, So when they already have a platform where they go and participate, and then their ideas, their opinions are not being tapped into the real context. They are not seeing their ideas in the outcome. Young people cannot even be bothered to create a new platform. Because the platform that is already there, their ideas are not coming as a result.
But I have a question for you there. Yes. Regarding the platforms that are already existent. Do you think these platforms are convenient or they're friendly to young people? Because now, a few weeks back, the consultations that were being done for the PVO amendment bill, and in some of those spaces, violence actually broke out. So, are these spaces meant for us? Especially now when you speak about the fact that even when we do contribute, the submissions that we give are not actually taken up. So are these spaces meant for us? Are these spaces convenient or friendly for us? And if not, what are the steps that we can take for us to create the platforms or the spaces that are convenient for us? Because we are present in certain aspects of social life. You will see us on certain Facebook lives for whatever reasons. We won't mention names, but for whatever reasons, you see us on certain Facebook lives, on certain Instagram lives, but you won't see us in other spaces. So where do we meet the young people, and how do we get them in the spaces that they're comfortable to participate, in the spaces where they're comfortable to give their submissions, knowing that they will be heard? That's the premise of the conversation that we're having, yes?
All right, thank you very much. So firstly, what we see in our society in Zimbabwe, we are an ageist society. We believe that as you grow older, you become a great thinker. Wisdom comes with
age and maturity.
So that's what we see. That's what we have. Even when we look at our constitution, the constitution of Zimbabwe is ageistic in nature. You see that someone is allowed to vote at the age of 18, but you're allowed to have a driver's license at the age of 16. So you're allowed to drive and kill people at the age of 16, but you're not allowed to vote. And then you're allowed to vote maybe for a matter at the age of 18, 19, 20, but you are then allowed to stand for a position of power, or for you to be elected at the age of 21. So you see now you're allowed to stand for an election at the age of 21 as a councillor or MP, but you're not allowed to stay there as a president, or as a senator. You cannot be a judge of any commission in this country. So now what we want is to try to create spaces where young people to participate beyond election. Because once people are there, they are in power. But what we want now is for those people in power to be accountable to the citizens, and also to deliver the promises that they promise the young people and our citizens. So that's the drive that we need. That's the conversation that we need now to say, how can young people then participate in decision-making processes? We cannot all be in parliament. We cannot all be in council offices. We cannot occupy the few chairs which are there. But now we need at least spaces for us as young people that we proffer ideas, solutions, so that they can be tapped and harnessed in the development agenda, at local level.
So you've done justice to toning this conversation down and guiding it in the right direction. Yes. We can't all occupy positions of leadership.
Yes.
But at the same time, we also need those who do occupy those spaces to account to us. Just to conclude our conversation, do you have any recommendations for the youth, and also maybe for duty bearers as well, for them to accommodate the youth in conversations of public accountability?
All right, maybe firstly to the youth where I come from. If we ignore these things happening, corruption happening, it's us who suffer the most. We are not getting anything out of corruption. You can participate today in corruption thinking that it's going to help you, but you're just getting a chunk out of billions. So it's better for young people to try by all means to promote integrity. But integrity is supposed to start with you as an individual. So a call of action to each and every young person who is out there. Let's make sure that we build integrity in our community, but let us be icons of integrity ourselves. Let's make sure that everyone whom we interact with, they go saying that you saw that young person is a person of integrity. Let's allow ourselves to grow, but how do we grow? Let's grow through good paths. Let us not use those wrong pathways to success. It's not success. You are just stealing something from someone. So it's not success. Let's succeed, let's not steal. And then to the duty bearers, you all have children. And if you continue with corruption, your children will suffer too. It's not like it's just those sons and daughters of the poor, sons and daughters of farmers who are going to suffer. But your children, when you are no longer here, are going to suffer. Because the resources that you are looting today are not going to come back forever. So let's make sure that we build a society for everyone. We build a society that our children and our grandchildren are going to enjoy. Because if we loot today, that gold that you loot today will never come back again for your grandchildren to go to school, for your grandchildren to access healthcare, for your grandchildren to access money which is strong. So let's try by all means to protect our resources, to protect our society and protect our people. Thank you.
Learnmore, before we cut out, so we're talking about youth for integrity. We're talking about pledging to be a youth for integrity. Will you put your right hand on your left breast and say, "I pledge to be a youth"? And I'm just asking you if you personally would be able to do that,
yes,
because I think
that.
we whilst we're having this conversation, it's easy for us to talk about these things at a surface level, but these are issues that people are facing every day.
Yes.
Like some of the times you're forced into a corner where you are then saying you need to then make that decision within yourself. Like our country here in Zimbabwe, we're facing unemployment which is over 60%. Those who are employed are informally employed, and that comes with challenges of its own.
Yes.
And these are all the these are all the results of corruption.
Yes.
So it's for us then to then identify those challenges and then link them with these bread and butter issues that we are facing, and then putting our right palms on our left breast and saying, "I pledge to not engage in corruption." I don't know if you would be willing to do that.
Yes,
but as an organization, as a coalition, we have the Youth Pledge. We'll plug the link in the description or in the video. If you are willing, you can then just sign on to that Youth Pledge. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation, Learnmore. Thank you so much for gracing us and participating in this conversation. Thank you.